Hello, Peter Mary here, the Fun Wedding Guy, and on today's episode we're going to start doing our study into the video that was suggested by DJ Ramu from the Boston and Rhode Island area. Now, just to clarify right from the beginning, I'm not trying to just single Ramu out randomly. Ramu and I actually went round and round a little bit on a YouTube page a long time ago, and he's recently decided to post some press releases about me after I criticized a couple of things he's doing to try and cherry pick jobs away from his competitors in his market. And if brides are searching for his competitors, he's found a way to make sure that they see his name too. And if he's really doing the quality of work he claims, he should be attracting more than enough clients to not need to try and cherry pick off the work of others. So I confronted that issue, and he decided to write a press release about me. And in his press release, he suggested that I stay up late at night studying a particular piece of video footage that he had linked in the press release. And after watching it, I realized that there was a lot of helpful information that all of us could learn from watching that video and studying it. If you haven't seen the video, you got to go to yesterday's post on thefunweddingguy.com, and just below my video blog, you'll see the clip from YouTube of Ramu's grand entrance, which we will be studying over the next couple of days. Today we're going to dig into the wording that was being used. And the reason we're going to study that in particular is because in this line of work I found that it's very common that people will have a certain comment that they say about DJs when they're thinking about hiring one.
You talk too much, you worry me to death. You talk too much, you even worry my head. You just talk too much.
How many times have you heard a client say, we want an MC who's just not going to talk too much? And what do they mean by that? I mean, do they really want a master of ceremonies who's not going to announce the cake cutting and make sure everybody can watch that? I've heard complaint after complaint about MCs who didn't, and the guests were upset that they missed that. So obviously it's our job to communicate, but when they say we talk too much, what could they be referring to? Well, one of the things they might be referring to is the word count. I actually wrote a transcript of everything that Ramu said on this particular video clip, and if you're watching this on the Fun Wedding Guy page, you can actually scroll down and see word for word every single word that he said. It was 560 words. 281 of those were just for his warm-up routine to get the crowd to make some noise and be a preamble for introducing the wedding party. So that's a lot of words. And after doing a little bit of trimming, I was able to take everything he said without changing any of the content and without adding in my own words, and I trimmed it down to 198 words. Just below his transcript, you'll see a shortened version of the same thing, which appears as you read it to be a lot more effective, a lot more direct, a lot more concise and precise. And that's the point. Too often we think that we need to continue to repeat ourselves or fill space instead of being concise with what we say to get our point across. Now tomorrow I'm going to cover the content of what was said and who he's talking about. We'll look into that in depth tomorrow. But for right now, let's talk about one aspect of filling that space with too many words. One of the aspects of that is called repetitive phrases. Randy Bartlett has talked about this many times, especially in his 1% Solution series on DVD. And he talks about DJs who say ladies and gentlemen too much. Well, one of them that I saw that Ramu said was Alpine Country Club. He named the location 4 different times while introducing the wedding party. Whether or not that fit, we'll talk about tomorrow, but I found it interesting that he found a way to say that title, that name of that location 4 different times. He said the word like 4 times. Like. Go back and read the transcript and see where he uses it and see if it really adds value. He used the word noise. You know, that's okay. Some DJs use the word noise to get the crowd to make some noise. That's fine. There might be better words that could be used, but he used it on 4 different occasions. Maybe he could have chosen different words so he wasn't repeating himself. He used the word everybody to encapsulate the group. That was his catch-all word for speaking to the group, was the word everybody. So instead of saying ladies and gentlemen all the time, he just said everybody. And then one of our personal favorites between me and Randy is at this time. He said at this time 6 different times. And that is an introductory phrase that's used to focus people's attention and help us focus on what we're going to say, but it's really a throwaway phrase. It's one of those phrases that gets overused and it becomes like the beginning of all of your sentences. Just like some DJs will say ladies and gentlemen at the beginning of every sentence, saying at this time at the beginning of every sentence can be just as hazardous. But the biggest one that stood out to me was the word gonna. He used the word gonna 10 times. Now, that's a slang term that actually is a derivative of the word going, which is a more proper word. Gonna isn't as proper, especially in a formal setting like a wedding reception, but he did say the word going on 3 occasions. So I know that he knows how to say that word, it's just that he got used to saying gonna, and it rolls off the tongue a lot easier, a lot faster, and so when you combine those 2 together, gonna and going, he said that 13 times. There were 13 times that he said that. And on one occasion, he actually said gonna twice in one sentence. He said, quote, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the enthusiasm of the room. What I'm going to do is I'm going to test the enthusiasm of the room. If you have to use a word twice in the same sentence, you're being redundant. You're being too wordy. And if you use that word over and over throughout your presentation, once again, what value is it adding to what you're saying? Go back and read the transcript and see what gonna does. What it does is it just prefaces what he's going to say. That would be like me saying, right now I'm going to turn on my mic and I'm going to walk out here and I'm going to make an announcement and then I'm going to make a joke and then I'm going to introduce the parents and then I'm going to introduce the wedding party and then I'm going to introduce the first dance and then I'm going to start their song and then you're all going to clap while they dance together. Does it make sense to tell everybody what I'm going to do, or is it more effective to just do it? If you read the edited version of the script, you'll see that all the gunnas have pretty much been taken out of there because they really aren't that necessary. They're telling the crowd what's going to happen instead of just making it happen. And it's our job to make it concise and make that happen. So that was one of the biggest lessons I learned from watching this, was seeing how often the word gonna and going were used as a preface to let people know what was about to occur instead of just making things happen on their own. And then one last one that stood out was on 2 occasions, Ramu asked the crowd, is everybody in a good mood? Now, if I was in that crowd and somebody asked me if I was in a good mood and they made me cheer, that's okay. If they ask me again within a minute, I'm thinking they're not paying attention, they're not really connecting with me, they're doing a rote standard routine they do all the time, and they're just rattling off what they need to say. And so now I feel less connected to that master of ceremonies, and I feel less connected to the event, because now they're starting to ask me the question twice, which really didn't need to even be asked once, to be really honest. We'll talk more about the content, once again, of what's being said and who's being talked about tomorrow. We'll get into that in depth. But for today, I wanted to focus on how much is being said and how that can be condensed to make it more effective. And I hope that feedback makes sense. So if you have any questions or comments about today's episode, please feel free to post them on the blog site, thefunweddingguy.com. You can also post comments on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/thefunweddingguy, or our Facebook channel, facebook.com/thefunweddingguy. And as always, any questions or comments you have, please feel free to post them. Any suggestions for topics you'd like to see me cover related to this or any other topic, I'd be happy to discuss. In fact, when I showcased my grand entrance back on Sunday, I had somebody send me an email asking if I could show video of how I actually create the mix while I'm doing that introduction. And so we're going to set the camera up on BPM Studio, and I'll show you exactly what I did. It's going to be very detailed. It's going to take a little while to set it up, but I am working on that because I'd like to honor as many of those requests as I can. So feel free to keep the requests and the questions coming in. I'll do my best to keep responding to you. And thanks again for tuning in to The Fun Wedding Guy. I'm Peter Mary. Have a great day.